So beginning on page 1 with the opening prayers. All mothers, sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mothers, Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious mind of Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities exactly as they are, transcendent conqueror together with your disciples, please come here to this place. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I do.
Sanje Shen La Me De Gu Wa Yin Du Ge Nam Da Shen De Ju Wa Shui Chang Ze Wa Dang Ju Yin Ya Ba Dang Jie Se Ye Ran Gun Shen Su Wa Ye Ye Wa Jun Ze Da Ge 人间造白，他们皆作白，长久见不我。
So then to page 11. Namo, to the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the three realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the five wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Maya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind. Transcendent conqueror, the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of two-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise even then, I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain, the one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you, the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you among the 3 levels of existence is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace. To that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone, the pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the 3 higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha I also prostrate. And then back to 9.
ji je nur zo ge je jo me je ve to jen be ye ye nga dan de de dan ye ga de je lo jun de ye ren bo je da sim ye je nga ne so wa de je ne je nga de jen je lo sim do ne je me nong dan de long de ju ge do ba ra jen je lo jong den de de yen ye ba da jong ba yang da ba ra do be sang jie zhe ba dan xiao sen den ba de wa ra ye ba ji den jian ba ji ren de wa ka lo ju wa la na me ba la da me ya nang jie dong ba nian mi xia jie jiao bo xiao jie de zhen ma me ba la rab de do de gu wei chang za lo gang ze gang ni so wei ju dang ze sa jian de la gong ba dung wo ren nga ne ji gen de na chu jie song te zhen ke ba qi lai chang ze lo nam da gong an chu de su sang wa yi xie jiang zui si jie ren bo da zha guan ji den song na lang ye wa an gong bo qiu nie qiu lai chang ze lo jian xiu lian ba jian mian da wei xie sen do ji lai chang ze lo de de qiu de si ba song na zi yan min jian jian ji lai chang ze lo men jiu du wa ka lo jian zi jian gun jiu ren jing wa jian zi di yin ye ang bo xie dan ye ye xie lan ji nian yu xiu ba de lai chang ze lo gong bo tu ye jie dian ba tam jie jian bie dong ba bo song na yang dian jiang zu xin ti jin ye lai chang ze lo da bian da jia ji wei ji ge wei nian song de dui xin tong dan jiu jiu wai xie jiu ren jiu lai chang ze lo chuan ne zhu bie lang yang dong la ba dao lai rab de gu xin ge dang ba yang dian ji e gen de la ya chang ze lo.
Page 15. I prostrate to the youthful Manjushri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dhammapada completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas, with the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense. I make offerings to the victorious ones. with the finest gauze, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways, I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together, those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. Page 16. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma, of the 2 vehicles and their combination, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Dhammapada. Rangi dewa tsene ne dewa ndubin menamla cheba jubar chiba ne chima dewa to minjoro. Rangi dewa tsene jang dewa ndubin menamla cheba jubar mijina chima dewa to minjors.
So picking up in the Dhammapada, if you're in the Orange Book, we're in the section which is titled Punishment. And so it is the last 2 verses, 3 and 4. So if in seeking happiness you bring harm to others who also seek to be happy, in the future you will never be happy. If in seeking happiness you never harm others who also seek to be happy, in the future happiness will come to you. And so we also have an alternate version, although that seems pretty straightforward. The one who, desiring happiness for himself, harms with the rod, beings who desire happiness will have no happiness hereafter. The one who, desiring happiness for himself, does not harm with the rod, beings who desire happiness will have happiness thereafter. So the title for this chapter, or in this version for the same chapter, is the rod. So tsepedits, and so actually here it's interesting, it's translated as punishment. It's actually harm, right? Tsepa? Tse is harm. Tsepa, tsepeditsin. Tsepeditsin?
No,
Chepeditsin. Oh, okay, right, chepeditsin, not tsepeditsin. So chepe, gituna karere, gainsin a big, kaka yurwa.
What means right means?
I don't know what that means. Does that mean like the stick?
It's like punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it literally means like this,
It's like
like a pole that you
Okay.
beat somebody with. That's the rod.
Okay.
And then this one is punishment.
Looks like both the same, right?
Definitely the same.
Punishment.
They both sting.
But this punishment is their own punishment, I think, not somebody's.
It's not
like,
some. That's the problem.
Self-
Is that it sounds like it's somebody else who is punishing, but
It's a karma, no?
chepa labna the
Cheba Jula brought this punishment, yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, Cheba is Tibetan fine.
Fine,
Fine.
like to incur a fine.
Okay.
So that's I think Cheba means fine. I think Cheba means not really punishment, I think.
Penalty?
The penalty or fine, like
Or
have to
even
pay
I
back.
think can it be a loss?
It's a punishment.
No.
No.
That did what that they catch him what that's all Karsena that Zambeling D Nala Zambeling D Nala that Karsena Ranke Chitola Tenejita call a Deo Yunyak Chitola Tene Henlebe no Batang Yorwa Tindu Yina Yanda Shera maybe one, right? Tinije kitene, o nye call pa chebaji, ko dubotambina, ngal dewaji tubgre, sambandoji, yunguyore, on ina yanda de la sanje kitinde mares. Chora himbajil dubotambina, tine, tin jibit ran dubo nyangre, sonda. Telle,
So, but what's meant here is like the what one puts out, one receives in return. So in the world, actually, and just as it is suggesting with these two verses, there are many who do harm others in the pursuit of their own happiness. So in thinking that if they can defeat or harm or conquer others, that then they will get what it is that they desire, then they don't have a second thought about it. And so they just go about whatever needs to be done in order to achieve their purposes, or what they see to be something that's going to bring happiness and benefit to themselves. But this is actually because of a lack of intelligence or wisdom, because what they fail to realize is that if there's ever a case where one harms others in order to trying to achieve what they desire, that ultimately the only outcome is that harm will then come to them, that ultimately it will bring hardship and suffering onto oneself.
어때 디엔드 테레 베나 조르는 뭐 치토송도와 테타 하쿠음도 손데 디엔드티네 원에 지는 랑 가르치거나 랑클라라 요레스 디엔드 커스나 랑게 컨디 치비나요 현티네지 용세기래 손데 벤도 차샤비나 초랑게 지금 멋직라 멋심바직라 respect be gentle speaking yamen kochu met yabodo ndo tiniji labina tin deputy ko tigarala tin so land wote kariyasna ya meti solo chora yabondo ko gentle labia imbade ko rangi chadi ore sonde tate main beke ko pena chacha no ko yabo mendo ko dubore ko ndigi mendo sambandro jekdan tene ko la ya dawando ji yuina ko ti ransho korala yang tene himbati to dawa ingres ina pa dawa chine chola be dawa majin kentita ji changchop samba sajule ne denge ina tene yo mato beke koda general parkandi 진 초 용그레스 pena chacha vina chora mel
Sachubala ni bijam chup samaganda.
chancho sambaina da pardu bodana cho kono lang marwa
Ore.
te mado da samatni resa
So Kyopa Rinpoche sung yune jikjin
ta
sung.
che tan ro jan general
Yine am dampo Kyopa Rinpoche sung. Love me babe.
re
So as Kyopa Rinpoche or Jigten Sungan has said, whatever. Okay, then so then if one does whatever it is that one does in the moment, one actually receives the result of that practically instantaneously, meaning that whatever it is that we desire ourselves is it's within our own hands to create. And the moment that we start to act in a certain way, or we start to go in the direction of a certain stream or course of intention and action, we immediately start to receive the results of that. So for example, if we are kind to others, if we treat others with respect, if we speak to them, in a way that is gentle and kind, then the result of that is immediately experienced, because most often when it comes to human beings, they respond in turn with whatever it is that they are confronted with. So for instance, if someone treats somebody well, chances are that the kind of reaction that one will get in return is also of the same nature. And the same goes with negativity. Like if one is very critical and sort of angry and gives one sort of like disapproving and angry looks, then the chances are that's what one will receive in return. If one is acting in a way that is where aversion is evident, then that will be reflected back in the attitudes of others who receive that aversion. And so, except for, because that's just the way human nature is, if people are kind, people tend to respond with kindness. If people are mean, people tend to respond with meanness, except for maybe a 10th level bodhisattva who, even if somebody is really awful to them, will still be very patient and kind in response.
Right. So yeah, also not only human beings, so we can take care to animals, so we really take care, or we can beat them. They try to fight. So this also release this own thing. So the own mind, okay, not other objects. So I think look like a mirror, mirror, reflect mirror. Okay, you can smile, reflect smile. Okay. So, but I show this angry face, but didn't show the smile in the mirror, reflect, right? So we can look angry, they show angry. Okay, we smile, and then they smile. So that's his karma works. So long run, So so here, so actually the story is so I think Buddha saw somebody, the village people. So there is one snake, So all the village come to there, beating them snakes, and the Buddha show up.
The villagers were beating the snakes.
So what they going on? Or we don't want the suffering because maybe the snake bite me, so that's why we became the snakes. So they was, oh, okay, yeah. But how feel the snake just beating them all the way to people? So then said, oh, so they were like, oh, yeah, they are suffering. So then Buddha said, yes, the snake are suffering. So these you did beating the snake. So there you will be snake beating you. So that's I think next word. So Theravada ko dewa no wodo bi na yang. Tine ko dewa jung tu grace.
So then the next one being that if in
The
seeking,
next one.
well, this one just if you,
Alright, okay.
if in seeking happiness you never harm others who also seek to be happy, in the future happiness will come to you.
So tine ta thang lang bo jata jik. In drintem kolo jata jik. Nala along leg dabi. Men hia tong so jata jik. Tamchi kun chen ke cha. Judo bola to ma to. Tina chi hyor ma ji bar. Dunju chi na tewen chos.
The dambo sik chua chiang marabe. Kare dambo kare.
So they just kana jik ti jil ro.
Re yene yang kaka yamba nam chin so.
Sik so.
Sik chu.
What? Okay. Where's the data lambo?
Chade
Well, I think they beat when they six so mawa mi jahi.
Yeah, the next day. Tila yung mari kain sa natampo rangi dewa. Tani 6.
So the other words, can you look? Same thing? Other word?
Let's see. Di dang chik ba chik chang.
Okay. Okay, maybe just follow this one. Okay. I think maybe the 6 words is more here, but maybe we can skip this one. So
Yes, strangely, it seems like he has some verses that don't appear in either of these.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Siktsop jiyang mejawas. Siktsop jiyang mejawa chula maybe. Len yor. Nanja tamne dungani chula yupa laring yor. Wonde dibin karwahin ranki jiyang mamawas. Nyangen deban deyeto kelve tsegda yumayis.
So this one is never speak harsh words, for you will be answered in kind. Senseless talk brings suffering, for it is thrown right back to you. But if you stay like a broken gong and never speak a word, the cycle of idle talk will break and you will pass from sorrow. So the alternate version reads, do not speak harshly to anyone. Those spoken to will answer back, for angry speech is painful. Retribution may reach you. If, like a cracked gong, you don't let yourself make a noise, you have attained nirvana. There is no arrogance in you. That was a little different.
Okay. That I need in the order. That is Jatan Sixo Sayal. That's all Karsanga to the Rangi Ke Dachi. Not so mook, Senata Mainari, Suina Jatan Tap and Mondo from the Rangi Tenchila, who Sambok Chajitan, who maybe Chaji, yours.
So this is the same with respect to speech specifically, especially with harsh words. And so if the moment you speak harsh words, then sort of together with that or co-emergent with that is the negative response that you will receive in return. It kind of comes automatically the moment that the words leave your mouth.
Any kind of lama song in that Getam Mainas, Rangi Lenchela Cariore. Sambo Chaji that me Chaji Yore, Slima.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So also with anybody, so I got the co-emergent part wrong. What is co-emergent is the two sides, positive and negative. So both positive and negative kind of come simultaneously, or the potential for both are there. They're kind of co-emergent.
That Tindi Indu, Katanga to Jetan Hako Gorua, Jetan Chuchi, Seatela, that Jetanga Tsokepe, Rangi, Senari, Chita, Lunga Yizonki, Chawajoba Tamala, can be Yaboimba, negative Mewa, be Gavek Cho. Tindi Yimbina, Tengazotan the Jita, Chu Seati, Koji, Toson Gumsum Seano, Chu Nyamne Seati.
And so as that is the case, then there is the full capacity there to choose the side of positivity. So to act with wholesomeness of body, speech, and mind. Then the negative
So we are so if we are no negatives, everything's like whatever virtue wise and positive, the inner mind is there no negativities. So then we no need to Dharma practice. So we said, okay, Dharma practice, right? Study, listening, study, and practice, we no need. So, but however, so we are both, okay? We are positives, we are negatives. So because we have the negatives, so then how dealing the negatives or how to remove the negatives. So that's why we have to study and practice Dharma. So that's so then among those, what is negative? So you're talking about one is like
harsh speech.
Tendita Jozo Carson Terita, Sixob Siati, Tezungdoda, Segla Sonja Mete, meaning making Latin, Domro, Son Tendita, Zo Carsena, Pen Sixob Siati, Yubi Kabla, Lamken Korayang, Ti Tutelayang, Jiwo Mewa. Jiyungu Yorela, Yang, Tetan Yamdela, Collapsi Ute Yamini.
And so, as is often said, in particular in relation to harsh speech, is that this saying that although words are not weapons, they have the power to cut somebody's heart. And so this is really the power of negative speech. It together with whatever the hurtful words are, immediately there is this reaction of feeling very upset or unhappy or sad, and so together those types of words only bring about this lack of unhappiness and upset.
Tela imba di jetang lab na di lamgen korang na jiwo meba, lab se yunyang jiwo meba.
For both parties. So the one who speaks is upset together with the words leaving their mouth, and the one who receives those words is also upset. So both the one who speaks them and the one who receives them, the only possible outcome is being upset.
Wada tiga na yi ke jetang nga zo ta jik mele jik magawa chanro ya. Ke nitsu zo di ko tseg le tene. Tene yungu yo res.
And so most often when there is kind of dislike between people, or two people don't like each other, this most often comes down to words that have been said.
Ta tiga na yi nga zon zambling di na la tanda samno tangbi na ji jikab chukwa jagya ina yang ta ko zo xiesin za te ko tseg jik le tene. Tene be tseg dubo jik le tene. Tene ko chukwa jagro ya no jik yungu do was.
And even in terms of like very large scale disputes, such as, even war, or two countries, not being harmonious with each other, it very often has, whatever the dispute is, has come about as a result of like words that have been exchanged.
Oda tindi indu, tangi kong xiwa nang yiri. Nga zo nima tereng ne songde ngo tsek zobo labgi men seya ji, chi togu mari di yina yang, ko ji megewi ki cho de tangi kong xiwa nang yiri, ko megewi ki cho de la tene, ji tsek zob seya de ko nyong ru, tang ya ke, ta tabi chi bugu yo res, ko jumsan ji ha ko ne, tsek zob la wala de ne, rang ya jiwo mewa, hen ya jiwo me do sambe ki to ne, ko tsek zob la ya de, ko ji nyong ru, tang to ya ji bugu yo res.
And so, of course, it would be very difficult to just all at once decide that we're never going to say negative words again. We're not going to ever say anything hurtful or harmful to anyone else. This is, would be very difficult. But we can have that aspiration, that long-term aspiration, and really make an effort, to diminish the things that we say that are the nature of negativity, that fall on the side of the unwholesome. And so really understanding that these words really create unhappiness for both ourselves and others. So to have an aspiration or a commitment to really do our best to limit negative speech, to diminish negative speech.
다 디슈라 낭차레 다 낭차세야 디 조 카르스나 디 samno tang gore ngazo chuchia ke jumsen jigde jumsen jigsina chuchia ka most important part karisena ko je nga seya da dangzi seya nga seya ken zimbade hyol chelo chonglo dang ya tles
dangsen chungwa tang.
chuchia jumsen kare.
Oh yeah. So then, of course, the other type of harmful speech, or another type of harmful speech, is idle chatter or meaningless speech. And the reason, also another reason to really limit our kind of meaningless or idle chatter is because the most important kind of goal of our Dharma practice, or what is our Dharma practice is really meant to do, the purpose of it, is to counteract the mind of self-grasping, to diminish this sort of fixation on like identification with a self, or kind of the importance, this importance placed upon ourselves, or the self-grasping mind. So the point of the Dharma is that this is to counteract or cause the self-grasping mind to diminish.
어다 틴디 인두 카르스나 코 당지 요비 줌센데 labdu Tanga to Nanchar, Seketaji, Lavian, go to pick up la. This go Hantalatis, go to Boying Bandawoji, or Rangi, Clavin Goris, Hank Monday Wonder, or Hank and Dig me or the Ojitine. Jim Sankers are dancing you with Jim Santalitani, Tindi in it, and Nanchar make your chambers on. Tigana Tindri, Jim Santalitani, go Nanchate, Jita, Tangi Tixomroina, go Tambo name, go to do ne, go Jangel, Tane, Colak the border with Labuorwa. In a Nanchate go hidden the way child of yours. In a Nanchate Tambo go purpose the planning the your money. Ko Jim Vigil Dubola Bos and Bikiko. Go your married in a young, go Nanchate young, go to be Kaula. Tene Shana, Duboin Bandoji. Tene, Shank Monday Wandoji, go negative, short home over this. Tell Jim Sankasa, Danzu with Jim Santalatan. Tindi Indu, then Nanjati pet to Bores. Teton Yamto, young Nanjisiatic Tajik, Casago to soup every civic. Trola Angry is on the wall.
And so, as that is the case, you'll find that actually when we engage in kind of just conversation for the sake of it, or this idle chatter, or kind of meaningless speech, it's the self, it provides an opportunity for the self-grasping to raise up. And when then based on that, then there's also sort of already subtly, there's kind of like something is wrong with others. And so in the conversation, there comes this kind of sneaky way in where there's kind of the reification of the self or raising up the self and kind of a diminishment of others. And so that's because of the way in which this idle chatter supports the mind of self-grasping. And so it's not as obvious as it is with the harsh speech. Because with harsh speech, it's like you're already starting out, with negative, very overt negative words about another person. But when it comes to the kind of negativity towards others that occurs in idle chatter, it's kind of hidden, or often it starts off as hidden, and then gradually it kind of it becomes more and more coarse, even though that might not even be the purpose or the planning that you started this speech, that you started with, but it's kind of naturally what happened. So you may not have the intention to speak negatively or to speak poorly of others, but eventually that's what ends up happening in these conversations. And so, it ends up becoming this person does this, or that person does this, or this person's not okay for this or that reason. And it becomes this negative speech about other people. And so, then not only does it end up totally counteracting our efforts at Dharma, which is actually to diminish the mind of self-grasping, but it also becomes a huge waste of time.
That's the work person did it. T. Go Carsanada, Jixobinary, Nanchainary, Tenetic, go some Shashan, Nande, so Penangatonga, Domina, Daji Tangroa. Tiri Takoji, Migiwatia, long gray, only. Penangado Dona, Carnadori, gone. Gone, Gijagra, or the Madone, the Sendina. Tineko Gijagmarwa, or Tinita needs to come young Mares only. The Matata Condro Penai, 6 of nine parties of Mana, sorts of Magroa. Oh, Tine Palma do Borella, not so do Borella Groa. Or Tini Indu, that Tini Shashavina, Tini, could Yangendi back top to Bre, so Nanja.
And so with so the advice here, both with regard to harsh speech and meaningless speech, is to just stay quiet, to not speak at all, to become like a gong with a crack in it, a broken gong. That it doesn't, the speech doesn't leave your mouth, because once you strike the gong and it reverberates, it's out there, and that then, for instance, in the case of harsh speech, in the case of destructive idle chatter, criticism towards others, it's like the speech is out there and reverberating, and it almost always also comes back to you. And so it's better just to remain like a cracked gong, to avoid really saying much of anything at all.
오다 딘리게 게 공강샤라 땅 직접 maybe나 냥냥데 바
Oh, yeah. So then in the final word says, the cycle of idle talk will break and you will pass from sorrow. So this word nyanginde in Tibetan, so that you notice in the other translation, it says, it's translated as nirvana. So that's the literal meaning of nirvana, is to go beyond sorrow. So this is illustrating how powerful the refraining from speech can actually be, that in cutting off speech, that itself can lead to the state beyond sorrow or nirvana.
So we will skip stories today. Rita kitang tsung doa ina da nga tsung do da de la hyuji yang hyuji be kharta ma tsama la tiwa tsaworwa ji kecha labne di khaya ke ko tini thu khira yungu yomarwa ina yang da ko ji danga hilung banga hi ko le khaya hida mewa ji tini be tuzu tsama thola no log yorwa tini kitang ngang chersi ya te tsung doa tini losom etrit dasom tsamla diwalis 샤솜 낙지 지나가서 나지 하는데 그 배용체 열에 순으로
3 days. So it is also sometimes the case, like there are some places or villages or where there's not a whole lot to do and people are sitting around, and then there's like a lot of opportunity for idle speech and gossip, and then that ends up becoming just like a strong tendency in the people, whereas here maybe we don't have a whole lot of idle time, people are busy for the most part, so in a way this really has its benefits in that regard, but it is said in general, and especially when it's a situation where there is a lot of unwholesome or unvirtuous speech that has been habituated, that better than staying in retreat for or even more powerful than say a retreat of 3 months, is to not speak or to cut off speech, to practice silence for 3 days.
어디니 내가 나기다 조 가서는 거 추념에 집에 가라냐 다니 공슈요 이는 거 강사제기 줄에 뉴몬바 메와 되니 용구요 말이스 뉴몬바 요레스 이내야 뉴몬바다 가디 집에 이내야 거기 리액션 치야데 quickly 마인바 가디나 뉴몬베 그레텔라 this could delay 치야데 패키징 보레스.
And so, as Bhagavan Rinpoche often says, when practicing Dharma, we, very effective, especially in terms of speech, is when a negative emotion arises in the mind, to not act on that quickly, to not say something quickly, but instead to wait, to delay.
That give it on the way, not immediately.
And then when it comes to the virtuous side or the wholesome, that's something to be expedient on, to act immediately.
Okay, now next one. Chedar chukzi yopaye chok nam lesson dichi ba tijin sokcha nam jine sedang chewa diban yours.
So then the next one is, as a cowherd drives his herd to the enclosure with his staff, so are all living creatures driven by old age and death.
Is it cow?
Cowherd, so like cowboy.
Okay, yes, yeah. I think not only cow. I think okay, that's one.
Yeah, that's a different word. Yeah.
Okay.
But here it also says cowherd. Just as a cowherd with his rod drives his cattle to pasture, old age and death in the lives of living things.
That get on cow the injury, cow jibo maro low the win and counter. Look to me in a because some get like yable look to teeny rogroa. Get on the cow harder in a jibarwa. There's a minute that the Nikada do it, no one do it, Jablola, Drone, and the Yungioris. Kaduina choyuna, the Dankins which yoris. Kaduina Yungioris. What indeed, better now ye. Then the jig not to Jenny, Sunday, then I go Chiana, which Jagana Jingata, Gilly, Kadi, Yungioris.
And so in any case, it can be like a cowherd, it could also be a shepherd, it could also be any type of somebody who's herding animals in general. And what it means is that the person who is driving, the shepherd or the cowherd, is standing back behind his flock of sheep or cows, and he's always directing them. He's always right there behind, kind of coming up behind. There's never a time when he's not pursuing or following behind his herd of animals. And so it is the same way with old age and death. It is always there. Meaning the moment that we are born, that is our inevitable destiny. That is our inevitable endpoint. That there's always close behind, we are pursued by old age and death.
That in the Kitanga to Tambik, Chu Roberti, while at the Neti. That Jimsem Mombuchi Yorwa, been a store in the land of Wina, Tenidoa. Is it Okay, so
it's like every pen I try to use is
okay, give me all the pens not working.
Okay. It's working.
Okay, this is not working.
I got some in the cord.
This one.
Okay.
That's enough.
Okay.
Just has to go through them.
Okay,
Get rid
this
of the
one's
ones that
good.
don't work.
And sometimes it's not always consistent. That's the thing. Sometimes they come back.
Okay, maybe
That's
maybe
good.
page, better page.
Yeah,
Better.
that seems maybe not so good.
Okay. Today, de la coranso the dongji yor what I don't kanda kuma mambo jetine ta samro degi yoris chunyame chigi yoris. Ina today ma sama gadget ditine tanga hilo nga la kompanto ya kichi to degi yola yoris. Ga hiwo nga chubucha ane chaya kichi to degi yoris. Ga hila na o tanga di Chua husband or Diana the Jiment would be just what those cotilities per coy and no you know, cote antibodos labores. Young I hear that 양 보이나 부모인 어가 좋아야 보지 양나 알아배 제매야 보지 틀리토야 치도래 양 잠대 올라고요레스
Okay.
어다 틀리도 간다다 거지 남다 여러 와준세 뭔가 히 총야 보이나 치든 잠대 올라고요레스 얘는 양다 뜻서 틀리 상제리야 휴응도 다 틀리 참 대구 말레스 틀리 치다 딱 원에 지나 방보처라지 치와 못하와 간디 뭐 대하고야 당부터 하고 그래스
So so is this like a story? Yeah. So there was a time when at one point there was sort of like a gathering and the Buddha was teaching and it was discussed, what the sort of wide range of motivations that people might have for staying in retreat. So some, were staying in retreat because they wanted to reach, the level, like be reborn in the God realms, in the higher realms of the devas or celestial beings. Some were hoping to become rich. Some were wanting to just get a little bit of peace and quiet from their family life, really like maybe, to get some quiet from their spouse or their children. And then others were wanting to find a spouse, like a nice husband or wife. And so there were all of these different reasons or motivations why different people were maybe might have for staying in retreat. But the Buddha said that the most important reason or the motivation really should be because of awareness of death and impermanence.
다디 개침보래 가서 단 치외 있겠네 가올라 대삼노 통미나 되는 가서 지 주치야게 갈색 거다지 모티베이션을 이나더니 휴침부 연구요레스 제네 니네 갈세나다 오네 가서 지 셰세야디 지 딱갈리 가쇼 지 차디요르와 디인드 디응오들라 되는 가서 지딱 주치야 확차 지 ben chuchi zidu ji karsina sem kandaya sem tembatobya sem de hide yungya ke ko hwacha ji tene hya ko prowa oda de nu kesi ji hya de sam matawina de chuchi ya de ko ji de gas routine ma de gas karse ko da ji tem zone ro cha no prowa tende mayimba tene ji ko karse volunteer tene chagyo sa is.
So when there's really awareness of impermanence, then the motivation to really practice Dharma becomes very strong. And because there's also this understanding that death is actually very soon, it's inevitable, and it's also the most difficult experience, in life, that is the most difficult moment that everyone will confront. And so then there's the really strong incentive to create a deep imprint for Dharma, and also for the mind, to develop a very stable mind, to develop this imprint for happiness and peace, or peace and well-being, well-being of mind. And then there one is better equipped to also confront, that really monumental transition of death. And the guys had Tim Dawagi for Layabokoma Songkum Dabari.
다 대가 지금서 고고지 육소도 우리 zam바도 추치야 되네 되네도 차비요서로 오마도 초바초고 그래 다고 텐다고 지마서 휴지고 샘기되는 센서를 히라 메와도 근데 마나스윈도 있는 그 루틴이 저거 초바초고 그래 공당 초바초고 그래 랍거와 콘로고 그거와 이나 양고 샘기 deeply 연구해서 말했어.
So otherwise, sometimes Dharma practice can become like just like kind of a cultural thing that is imposed upon one. It becomes like a set of rules or customs that one just sort of does without even thinking about them so much. And for instance, in the monastery, this can definitely be the case. You know, like everybody goes to has to go to the prayers and practices, you know, every day at this time, and you just go without really even thinking deeply what the motivation is. And so when there's understanding of death and impermanence, then it is not like this. It doesn't become just sort of like routine or root, you know. It really, he says, like he said, you really become a volunteer, meaning you're really doing it voluntarily. It's really your choice.
And also, a very important part is we have to like kind of truly practice Dharma, you know, sincerely. So otherwise, we not or kind of imprint our own mind, you know. So like, I don't know, maybe we become old, right? Old. Maybe mind is not clear. Maybe not 100% what Alzheimer,
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
but so maybe we forget, you know, Dharma that time. So, but however, so we if really sincerely the practice deeply, you know, or pray to remember, you know, Buddha. So many different we see. Some people died. So maybe there's no body's no functioning, and painful. But same time, so Dharma practice they only remember one thing very strong, you know. So if we really in a kind of imprint in the mind, then even though maybe they don't remember our family, maybe don't remember their whatever possessions, right? But they remember Buddha Dharma. So depending, you know. So on other hand, you know, maybe you'll remember, oh, I want to, you know, live, or I don't want to die. Those to remember, but don't remember in Dharma. So that's very important. So actually, I talked with my father. I said, I'm very happy, you know. So first he can speak, you know. So he's very painful. That time he's kind of telling me the suffering, you know. Oh, I painful here, there. It's difficult, you know. Oh, difficult to sleeping. So there's how is Dharma practice, you know. So just I said, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Of course, you know, difficult. How is that, you know? Are you your prayer
How
with the
is
Dharma? How is your meditation? How is just like Muhammad? He just wake up. Oh, like he's no problem and he sort of wake up before. So, I say I didn't get sleeping. So it looks like maybe what is going on, you know. So, but that way, you know. So also they have to that way. So in order to get there, okay, have to remember all the time. So otherwise, I say, you know, maybe interesting. So in the before the death or during death, it's depending is how much you are kind of input, or during that time maybe very strong only thinking Buddha Dharma, or maybe forget it Buddha Dharma. So the depending we are truly focused, and truly practice. So to also this depending our aspirations, remember again. So that's it, I think. So also here saying this, you remember that, so then kind of easy to Dharma practice voluntarily.
Voluntarily.
Tenda hima jorwa. Onja bigpe le chiba, chipa tane mihede. Lonyarang ke le namji, meyetsek bani tanjors.
Although a fool may not recognize the evil he has wrought, his wicked mind will cause him torment, burning him like a raging fire. And then the alternate is, now when a fool does evil, he does not understand. By his own actions, the ignorant one is burnt as if by fire.
That Jatan Karsana that could depend on your wisdom. In a tongue lying banga to Jatan, no momba di chi Tani contribuan Nigeria, no so the swing me in a young. Go Gewik choyore, Megewik choyore, slimeba. Tindi indu ko chi ben Megewike, the peak lazy ade, chi some yana, ko careless no chia no jidaya, some mombojilla could be pele in bandojit. How cool your mind is.
So it depends on wisdom, but we all, since everybody has the potential for afflictive emotions, or as we started off saying, everybody has both sides, the potentiality for both virtue and non-virtue, or wholesome and unwholesome. And so as that is the case, sometimes we fall into the unwholesome because of carelessness. But sometimes we fall into the unwholesome because we're not aware, we're not, there's such a great word in Spanish, like darse cuenta, like you're just not recognizing that's what it is, that it's the nature. You're not recognizing the unwholesome as unwholesome.
Tini ngaso tila word pena ship log songen dawina. Tini koji jante jagore so kantosa jilina log riri zalando dina tini ko log tong dina ina ko lunga wali pe mambori ina koji ta wolf no jang do himba na tongyo marwa. Ina yang log zuti ke inchi meni ko pe sama biu tong desa jilando ta dina tini de 그래서 이제 민이 로직기를 로고야 요말에 예송 로직랑직기라.
And so that is the benefit of having awareness or wisdom, is that you see clearly what you're doing, you see clearly, you can discriminate between what should be avoided and what it is that should be encouraged or continued. So just like when herding sheep, if you go to a point that is kind of up high, an elevated point, and then you can look at all of the sheep in the valley, and you can see them all and know where they are. You don't have to go follow after one particular sheep. Instead, you can find this sort of space above that then can see everything clearly.
Same way, right? Then I got the Lilo Yomari, Yina Yang, Koji, is farther doji, tarting bodoji. That would be said. Spend a tandem on any contribution yere. 6 object love yore, in a 6 love changing your teaching the some no matter what any. Teach resort carding go over. That tea, Hakona, and a coach, young only the other one of Tongue.
So an example of this would be, say, for instance, and it's not always easy because we get caught up in, the whatever the things that are hooking us are. But if you sort of get some distance, get some space. So like, for instance, when it comes to harsh speech or harmful speech, then the harmful speech is the desire to say the harmful speech is arisen due to particular conditions. And ordinarily, we're focusing on the conditions, and focusing on those conditions is what leads us to behave in an unvirtuous way. But instead, to like go up and get that bird's eye view, looking at the sheep, for instance, and instead to look not at the conditions, but to look at the long-term effect or result, or even just the quality of the wholesome or the unwholesome, is much more effective than trying to navigate it by looking at the conditions that are creating the desire to say the harsh words.
yang kanki cheba mubi nimi cheba juchiba nekap jubo kanrongwa tela nyorton jowa de zumo tsulwa senongdang luna tongwar jiba dang jewe juban jungwa semna rabdang chuba to yerbo yine nyam ngawa yana meka chakbo de nyenam yongsu sibam longchu tana rabdang je onde yana teye chen metang la kindi kanjor herab chiwi lu hindu tene nyarwa ni tandros.
So Ji Lo Yinbei.
Yeah.
4. So he read 4 verses now. So first is punishing the innocent, those not deserving punishment, will quickly get you retribution in the guise of these 10 states. You will be oppressed and badly stricken, your body broken and ravaged. You will be weighed down with heavy afflictions, your mind sorely shaken. Your ruler will cause you to suffer. You will be slandered and wrongly accused. Your relatives will be lost to you, and your wealth and enjoyment destroyed. Lightning will strike your dwelling, and a fire consume your home. With your knowledge lost when your body goes, you are sure to be born in hell. So then the alternate verses are... Whoever with the rod does harm to rodless ones who do no harm will soon come to one or other of these 10 states. He'll experience sharp pain, loss, bodily injury, serious disease, or disturbance of mind, trouble from the king, grave slander, loss of relatives, or destruction of goods, or else blazing fire will burn down his house. On the breaking up of the body, that unwise one will go to hell.
Tatsu karsana miyu te karsana rangi tubgari samne tubyaje miyu jela tene ko hianla dubo tang yorwa.
So mainly when we harm others, it is because there is the thought that there is something that can be gained for oneself. So that is usually the objective, is to get something or gain something for oneself.
Yina yang ko tindi je hianla noba tane chiadal tubya khane yo mare. So ti tubya mebe ke tsabla tene bena cha na rana jengyen ba
However, it can never be the case that that the outcome can actually be gaining what is positive for oneself by harming others. So harming others is only going to ultimately result in one's own harm. And this is illustrated here by these 10 negative conditions that arise as a result of having harmed others.
individual, but individual you fight China. Ko ninja loser chado go mato jig top ne jig case yadi ko peja massive is.
And so, for instance, when two people fight, it is always the case, actually, that both people become losers, that both lose through the fighting. That, really, there's never really the case where there's like a real, somebody who wins and somebody who is defeated in the result. Both end up defeated.
Re ta jekam ro je yin ta ha ko ro ben jekap top chembo shu top chembo yona o top chembo ti ji jekap chung chung je la ko ji du bo tang ge yo re yin ya ko top chembo khora ya to ya khan yo ma re la ko top chung chung te ya to ya khan yo ma re ko ninja ko loser cha ro go is. How much we see now,
and how much we can even witness in the case of, say, violence on a global scale between, two countries. There might be, one country who is appearing, to be the stronger country, and yet when these two armies are fighting, how much loss is incurred on both sides. There is so much suffering, so much hardship, so much defeat, that are experienced by both. And so the end result of violence is always just devastation. And that is always experienced by both sides. So both sides become the losers.
가르세나 대가 나기다 대 가르세 relative level로 다 대가 나기 고치 multiple karmic 렌데로 삼노 담이나 네지 고 쳔데야 탄다 고 relative level로 쳔데야 가야 투자 요 말이라 대가 나기 직세 치마야 고디 렌데 도루도 되는 거고요.
And then if we think about it, so that's on the relative level, even just like as far as what is immediately recognizable, but even on a karmic level, which is more subtle. So there is nothing to be gained in this life, and it doesn't gain anyone any benefit in future lives. Then there is even the further karmic ripening of suffering that is experienced as a karmic result in future lives.
So I think the less here, one is the 10, right? 10 things. So 10 things del tambo de karsina, then rang la ko machiwa, supo so jaya la so what in the younger is number 1.
Okay, so this is going to be a challenge. These are both translated very differently, actually. But so
also, I think not big deal about them.
So Luni Dumbur de Damborbe.
No, that's the 10 or 10. What is it?
What's the first one?
Tell is the Lula Sung Yungres, Number Tambo, Tinian by Yungres, Lume by Yungres, Nij Singres. That's where I kind of.
Oh, okay. All right. But I'm trying to get it to match up to because it's how it's translated here. So the first one then is being oppressed. So of these 10, there are 10 things here that it is said come as a result. And the first one then is being oppressed. And then the second one is being oppressed and being badly stricken is maybe one. And then your body being broken and ravaged. Didn't he?
The old.
Chiranga rimpashin do samarawa. Tini rimpashin do madrona. Tini guessing chego.
So there's my love your.
Dini chang remba shindu nga hakoya ropa chego.
Or ke sung tapo yung grace. Yen nyamba yung grace.
Tongamendo.
Okay, tina take kind of I think they only the 10s. They say 10, okay?
So dilla. So kakala pide.
You're reading actually maybe first verse, right? Tela do cheba meombi nyemi cheba chujiba nekap jubo kangrong was. Beche tsama ni no yosara jikon no yosara.
Gangi chepa meombe. Nime chepe chuchepa. Nekap chupo
Or
ganga.
nekap jubo sayari do jubot.
So chupo dirabe.
Jubot actually different less here too.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can tell the team.
Okay.
No look there.
Okay.
Maybe we're already there too, I think last verse. Nekap jubot telabu yosada. Lulu sung yung grace.
Lula. Ganda yungre?
So grace.
So the first one then is like physical pain or wound, like you'll be physically wounded or experience physical
Not one.
pain.
Pain. Jeng nyamba yung grace. Jeng nyamba.
The second one is negative conditions. So this is different from what's in the book then, or in the verses.
I think here what is less too. Tini lula ma yung grace.
You'll have wounds on your body.
Ni yung grace.
And you'll be sick.
Tini sem tu grace.
You'll have mental disturbance.
Tini yarbu ki tini disco taka chundro cheba yores.
You will be punished by kings.
Tini mikata bo mukita ko meta du bodos lab grace.
You'll be criticized by others.
Tini nyen dang tenro grace. Related.
Oh, you'll be separated from your relatives.
Tini north kinjik pa yung grace.
You'll experience like destruction of wealth. Your wealth will be destroyed.
Tiga na yitini ko jik mela sobe tini kinjik pa yung grace only.
And you'll experience the threat of fire or the destruction of fire and so forth.
Right, actually, it's
So
similar.
it is the same, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less. It's sort of different. Yeah. Relatives will be lost to you, and your wealth and enjoyment will be destroyed.
Okay, that's good.
Lightning will strike your dwelling. And your home will be consumed by fire. Your home will be consumed by fire, right?
When it says punishing the innocent, does it, the cause of what we're discussing, does it mean general harm towards us or others, or is there a more specific cause that it's referring to here?
Right, yeah. So guys in the dilla yang the sema innocent la karawa injikela tene gangi sema meopa sema the
Ali person, right?
beginning.
Right.
Sema meopa yang de chitang the nupa tanga chikbo lakyo mare yini yang nupa
Right, yes, of course. Innocent, yes.
So like actually punishing innocent.
Right, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, his story is the like somebody punishing like Mongoliana.
Mogayana. One of the main disciples of the Buddha. So Shariputra and Mogayana are the two main disciples of Shravaka disciples of the Buddha.
Yeah, ite cheba yor wata ngazu tiri yang ji ko tile karsena te yore. Tani kontiwa na yiri ngazu sikso siya gila yor wa. Ko tile ko sama yang ko sikso imba zamje sama sikso chag yor wa. 배는 가서 지 매직을 배 매칭로야 로 지 가서는 매직로 루파치야 치도라 양고 직접라 그리 직다 등상 강히 뭐 토비 오만로이나 파마드소 게고 원래 특히 초den이 이나 디강테는 직치야 요 말이 직접 랍즈 그러와이나 고 직접 인바 장장게 직접 인바 매개와 차기요 말이스 대가나 인가도 다 치아바 파니시면 되나요 가시다 거지 양 빼면서 항상 할 그 누구한테 열와 빼 제반로 마치비나 가보러
Right, okay.
어다디 고가가 요소랬어.
So the same, so for instance, in the case of harsh speech, so there's sometimes, that harsh speech might actually be warranted, like it's actually intended to help someone. So for instance, like a child, where, a parent might say harsh words to their child to discipline them, which is maybe necessary. But then there's harsh speech, which is actually just completely motivated by the intention to harm. And so you can see how then the quality of the speech will be different in those cases. Or for instance, same with punishment, there are some who have done really atrocious things, and it isn't as though those things, it would necessarily be beneficial to not dole out punishment when it is really necessary, or when when actually punishing someone can have all around benefit. So it depends. So here, that's why it is qualified, somebody who is undeserving of punishment, to punish someone who is really undeserving of punishment has this outcome.
어다 들어가나 얘기 데려와 배나 디오르다 배나 가히기 양 단기 공투가 이 책임보 gentle 근리랍고 요러와 제통치나 이내야 직다 가서 그 리더로다 야직 제가 그 본본로다 소이나 고직 straight 고직 책타고도 근리랍고 그 제가티 폐 롱바티 폐 커뮤니티 폐 기치들라 그 근리랍고 이런 거래서 이나 고책
So it is, it isn't, there's always like conditions and circumstances, where these, we have to think about them in terms of that. So for instance, the advice overall is to practice speaking in a way that is gentle and calm, but when you apply this to, or gentle and kind, sorry, when you apply this to like the leader of a country, who has to be kind of stern, and has to maybe be even sort of like, wrathful with their speech, and that kind of stern or wrathful speech, may benefit the country, it may, benefit the people, benefit the community. It is not always necessarily the most skillful thing to speak in a way that is really, humble and gentle and kind. But in certain circumstances, it might be necessary to not speak in that way.
제가 나기를 때네 라하 멤버나 좀 사사 게모쇼 아고도네 le tambero watene laga member na zom his de yo maris torma chisa I don't know chi torma ha ko so
Chisa.
the author sama chi tor hi tang yo na thon zom se bi hamte de koram dik maris.
So there's this saying, like, you don't want to just like sort of sit around kind of smiling when the temple burns down. You don't want to just sit around smiling when the dog eats all the tormas. Or you shouldn't. Yeah.
Weenie.
Just to make sure I'm not going to tell. When sometimes parents find things difficult, and sometimes our children do things that are not right, and moms, we tend to yell. It's like a tendency. But we don't do it because we want to cause them harm, we do it because we're human, and we get frustrated and we want to scold them. So they don't do wrong things, like teenagers. They might even fight against each other and hurt each other. So I consider it to be compassionate to scold them and tell them this is not right. But I do it in such a strong way that sometimes I go overboard because I get mad. But it's not with the wrong intention. It's just to educate. It just sometimes as humans we get mad as well. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to hell or
No, not here. That's good job.
I need to do.
Actually, I think, of course, the children, they here is also really smart. But the different children, we are like older people, parents, total different experience. Children's different, definitely less experience, less knowledge, So some people are thinking, oh, yeah, that's whatever they want, whatever they do. No, okay, that's no. So whatever you can tell them, whatever rat war, peace war, whatever you're using, that's very important, But particularly this country is a little bit harder, I think.
He thinks that this country is too lenient when it comes to child rearing.
Yeah, the child is more, what is the
That they give more
soil,
power to
so
the
like, yeah,
child.
child is cool. And
Not in Mexico.
no, Tibet too. Tibet, no.
But it's
No.
difficult. It's difficult because I come from a different culture and they're getting the bad habits here. So it's about
Right, so we have balance, so yeah, Mexico and also this Asian, it's sometimes too much too, parents control. But here, really less parents, really less. That's not good at all. So sometimes, like, I don't know, this, I think not happy too, so this sometimes, if you like 40, 50 years old, but still, grandparents control, okay, you do this one, you don't do this one. But, well, okay, but we don't need that, level, but yes, I think, but also I think this, whatever got positive, negative is become further, not only one infant couple steps, but we further. So children, they don't see, or like, for example, they don't like the education, maybe you don't want, they want to go game or want to go play a game, so different things. They really didn't see how value future, okay, get education. May some children they see, but mostly they don't see. But parents can see. Parents, okay, good education, good knowledge, whatever those. So that's very important, So I think you didn't do whatever you want,
No.
But should be, So here, really need to children learning more. Really, actually, really compassion. Sometimes it's the parents cook everything. Parents do the children, but then maybe one day they are on the problems. They cannot do anything. Maybe cannot cook, cannot clean, cannot work, and then the miserable. So have to have like up before, like child, they give the job. So I said it's really, really difficult, I think, in this country. So other countries not like that. So we are grow like 2-3 years old, have to work, just and it's 6-7 years old, okay, take care of a couple hundred hips, So they give the job, then they okay, they're on, no problems. But here is, I don't know, I not say everybody, but some majority is just, they're doing everything your parents do, cook, clean, children. They don't do anything. That's
The parents
really
cater to the
not
children. Yeah.
good. I think really not good at all.
Yeah.
So then just their own thing, work 80 years old, then do everything, They cannot do that time, you can cook or whatever, you clean, or and you start school and you have pay off whatever those expensive things, they're really difficult. So then they become like kind of miserable, you know. So yeah. Okay, so one more time.
One more verse, you mean?
So Jirun draw tang repan damza tang kaze miza tang la nyewa tang kaze mara kaze miza tang la nyewa tang dungde yo tang zogbu yo ba ye do yen mage mene ta me jors.
Going naked, wearing matted hair, fasting or sleeping on the ground, covering your body with dust, or performing great austerities, none of these will remove your desires, none of these will make you pure. So then the alternate is neither going naked, nor matted locks, nor mud, nor fasting, nor lying on the bare ground, nor dust, nor dirt, nor striving in squatting posture can purify the mortal who has not gone beyond doubt.
Da je tang ko cho se ya de tere raison da simjun du ya ki chi de la. Tendi je ki chi de la da nga so cho to ba chi go na re kon ba chi go na re da de ga na yi ji chawa chi go na re ane chi go na re so chama la tendi je ki chi de ne che ya de ma to be ke chi gi ya te mai be o nga je je ru no bon do khala me za de ya no ti ke ya to go ma re is ko ba le to go ma re is.
So the point of this really is that the Dharma practice is meant to, it really comes down to the training of the mind, to bring about a transformation in the mind. Outside of that, whatever kind of external practices of austerity and whatnot, like going naked, having no possessions, not, eating any food or practicing any number of austerities, but also even becoming a monk or a nun or doing practices, external practices, without really understanding that it is not the practice itself, but the training of the mind that brings about the result. Then those things in and of themselves, these austerities or various practices, will not lead to the desired result or purification in and of themselves.
다 조 갈세는 테레 나서 테레와지 치 그거 많이 만들라 너 옌스 너 마게라 너들 라스 보스 너 바텔라 햄 바차 보여 말이스 나도.
And so as it says, none of these will remove your desires, none of these will make you pure.
다조 갈세는 가서 이제 강나 햄바요나 소리 강나 햄지 차바티 그 샘그 주텔라더니 직접 매바서야라고 이제 잘못한 거고요레스.
So the external practices themselves, not although they can be a support, the main thing is to focus on whatever, so whatever it is that is feeding the attachment, then to bring about a change in the mind, so that one is no longer, having this the simjula yoba. So it's really about the mind. The point is transforming the mind.
딱 가지는 것도 햄바세야 손에 햄바세야디 그 가시 햄베이나야 저 가지는 것도 헨차세야디 일단 햄바세야디 그 네기럽 산로지 차기거로 이나디 그 인트레스팅로 차디거로 가지는 그 계획 쫄 햄바히라 요 말이 이나 거디 햄바세야다 그런 메게웨인 비 줌센텔레 되네 그 도거 쫄라디 햄바로지 요레스.
So when it comes to craving and attachment, usually those things, that the reason why there's craving or attachment is that there's some sort of temptation. It's like the negative side that one is attached to, which is interesting. That's the interesting thing about craving and attachment. Whereas, actually there can be craving and attachment for what is wholesome, for what is virtuous.
Yes.
Okay.
Rita negative side, Bena Chachana, Teorotaki, Bena Kahina, one of you Tamaro Dona, Tamade, one of you Ping Marwa, or Ram Ping Mari, Lupola Ping Mari. That tell young Koti is Himbanoji, Benata, Tigana Yiji drink, no, Karina dark, no, Karin, that member tell it is Chikoji handle yours.
So, for example, like smoking tobacco, you know, there's nothing beneficial about smoking tobacco, and yet people can desire that. They become attached to it. But there's no benefit in the body. There's like no positive outcome that can come from smoking tobacco, and yet there is the attachment for those who like to smoke tobacco. It becomes this like craving that one can't, you know, that's very hard to overcome. Same with any, you know, maybe drinking or drugs. It's like that craving tends to arise for that which is actually not beneficial.
Right, interesting, right? So we are kind of interesting, good for body, good for mind. It's not really curving, you know.
We're not really craving those things.
You know, live there, you know. Like for example, you know, somebody like meat or meat, you know. Okay. So kind of like interesting. So this curving is really is the kind of really negative, you know. So whatever works for body and mind, so then kind of try to go there, you know. Okay, somebody says, okay, don't much eat sweet, you know. So then, because sweet looks really sweet, you know.
Yes.
So same thing we said also like whatever drugs, you know. So this I said it before last week. So just we are really the authentic, you know, the mind, you know, Buddha nature. We no need anything, you know. So perfect, complete we have, but we something, you know, edit something, you know, or maybe this is better, you know. So
Maybe
not
something
habit
else is
you are
better.
our Buddha nature. Okay, also our body is extremely, you know, powerful, precious, like inconceivable, like our body. So this functioning is unbelievable. They can work in like channels, wind. Like for example, we eat, how make this separated, you know? Good things take, bad things throw. So these million times better than how many the machines, you know, or machines this do this and that, but they're pure, faster. So unbelievable functioning. So like all the high yogis they can see. So really precious. It is really precious, you know. But we can rely on other things, substance, make it destroy the body, you know. So if the body is destroyed, very difficult to, you know, okay, so we can car tires blow up, okay, I buy the new tire, looks okay. But body is harder. Okay, so something, you know, break house or whatever, something mistakes, okay, we can change, you know. We can do. But the physical is really precious. But if you not take care, it maybe one day breaks, the breaks completely, you know. So not complete means the permanent break. So, but I said those are kind of we more curving.
we're craving the things that aren't good, that are
not good for body,
more likely
not
to
good
break
for
our
mind.
body.
So, but anyway, so this so the story here is so one, I think, rich guy. So he's very rich, you know. So his wife is died. So here, I don't know this. We're talking about storage, right? This storage.
Oh, so he was saying that we don't really have, there's this term in Tibetan, that it means like a treasure house, and which we would probably call like a storage house, but it's not like a storage house like an ordinary storage house. It's like a special where you put all of your precious treasures.
Right. So like some this in the Tibet too, until the Cultural Revelation, you know. So rich people, so they don't know. So this like put in the house like all gold, silver, tea, barley, rice.
Treasure chest.
So just live there. So some they completely filled the house and they build another one. So, but they don't know actually my grandfather's home. He knows the cultural revelation he take out. So, but they put their teas and gold. They don't know which generation. They don't know when they
Like it's been there for so many generations, they don't even know where it
collected.
came from.
So anyway, so this guy, he has big, whatever storage, treasure house. So his wife died. So he said, "Oh, I want to become monk." He did that, become monk. And then he built small temple in the storage house, inside the storage house. And then he has the servant too. So then he has just everything, just bring, you know, his or whatever, special rice, special food, special clothing he use. So then kind of enjoy. So they tell the Buddha, so, "What are you doing? Are you doing this?" Buddha said, "No, that's not really you become monk."
It doesn't benefit you to become a monk and then to practice in this way.
Right. So that's the story. Because probably he stopped working, I think, looks like. Right. So okay. So we start here today.
So we can do the dedication prayer. By the virtues collected in the three times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Jagumba Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias infinitas, gracias. Igualmente.
Oh, what did you do with Rat?
You made it sound
What
like she
should I
got
do?
rid
No,
of
I'm
it.
sorry.
What did you do with him?
I just gotta check with you. You have a minute?
Yeah. Did you say we got our PTA room keys?
Yeah, you want me to go to the car and get the stuff?
No, got it.
So I know